My name is Rebecca Martinez, and I'm 42 years old. 8 months ago, I laid to rest my spouse and 2 children without my parents present, as they chose to attend my brother's engagement celebration instead. When I called them in tears, sharing the devastating news that Daniel, Lily, and Marcus had been killed by an impaired driver, my mother's response crushed what remained of my spirit. Today is David's engagement party. We can't miss it. Those 8 words ended more than just a phone conversation. They ended my role as the family peacekeeper. What my family didn't realize was that my spouse's passing would trigger something they never anticipated. The $6 million life insurance policy was just the start. The real surprise came when they discovered what I'd created from the depths of my grief, featured on the front page of our local newspaper. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we begin this challenging journey, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly speaks to you. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now let me take you back to the morning that transformed everything. It was a Thursday morning in April. Daniel had just finished making waffles shaped like robots for Marcus, our 7-year-old, while Lily, 9, practiced her piano in the living room. I remember kissing them goodbye at 8:15 a.m., Daniel's coffee breath mixing with vanilla syrup as he whispered, "Love you, Rebecca. See you tonight for Pizza Thursday." Those were his last words to me. At 8:42 a.m., a delivery truck driver who'd been driving for 18 hours straight ran a red light at the intersection of Oak and 5th. The police said Daniel never had a chance to react. The impact was instant, catastrophic. They told me later that none of them suffered, as if that was supposed to bring comfort. I was in a board meeting when the call came. "Mrs. Martinez, this is Officer Thompson with the state police. There's been an accident." The room tilted. My colleague's voice faded to white noise. Somehow, I made it to the hospital, though I don't remember driving. The corridor to the examination room stretched endlessly, fluorescent lights humming their mechanical sympathy. The identification process is something I won't describe in detail. There are some images that shouldn't live in anyone else's mind. I'll just say this. I had to identify them separately. First Daniel, then Lily, then my baby Marcus. Each white sheet lifted was another piece of my soul torn away. The officer's words echoed hollow. There was nothing they could have done. The impaired driver had walked away with minor injuries. He'd been arrested at the scene. Blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit at 8 in the morning. I called my parents from the hospital parking lot. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the phone. Mom answered on the 3rd ring, laughter in the background. "Mom," I choked out. "They're gone. Daniel, Lily, Marcus, they're all gone." Silence. Then my mother's voice taking control. "What do you mean gone?" I explained through sobs. The accident, the impaired driver, the examination room, the funeral arrangements I needed to make. Her response came calm and measured. "Rebecca, today is David's engagement party. We've had the venue booked for months. We can't miss it." But the real nightmare hadn't even begun yet. To understand the full weight of my mother's words, you need to know our family dynamic. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the one who never caused problems, never asked for too much. "Good daughters don't keep track, Rebecca," my mother would say whenever I pointed out the disparities. When I was 19, I gave up my full scholarship to Columbia so David could use my college fund for his gap year in Australia. He needed to find himself. My parents said he found a lot of parties and came back with nothing but social media photos and debt. When Mom had her knee surgery 6 years ago, I took 4 months of unpaid leave to care for her. David was too busy with his new partner, the 4th that year. I slept on a cot in Mom's living room, managing her medications, cooking every meal, driving to every appointment. The day Mom could walk again, David showed up with flowers and got all the credit for being such a devoted son. My wedding. David announced his promotion at my reception. My award for excellence overshadowed by David's relationship drama. Every milestone in my life became background noise to David's perpetual theater. Daniel was the only one who saw it. "They've trained you to disappear, honey," he'd said after one particularly brutal family dinner where I'd cooked for 8 hours, only to have David arrive late with takeout because he forgot I was cooking. "But they're my family," I'd always respond. "Family shouldn't make you feel invisible," he'd say, holding me close. Now Daniel was gone. My children were gone. And my parents couldn't interrupt David's engagement party to support me through the worst day of my existence. Good daughters don't keep track, but I'd finally started counting. "We can't disappoint him," my mother continued, as if I hadn't just told her grandchildren were dead. You know how David gets when plans change. In the background, I heard my brother's voice. Is that Rebecca? Tell her she better not be calling with some crisis today. Patricia, please, I begged. I need you. I need Mom. I can't do this alone. You're strong, Rebecca. You'll manage. We'll call you tomorrow. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, certain I'd misheard. My hands were still covered in Marcus's favorite robot Band-Aids from where I'd scraped them falling in the hospital parking lot. My children were lying in an examination room, and my parents couldn't be bothered to leave an engagement party. I called back immediately. Mom answered this time. Mom, please. The funeral home needs decisions. I don't know how to lay my babies to rest. Her voice was whisper soft, the way it got when she didn't want to upset my father. Your mother's right, sweetie. David's been planning this for months. All his friends are here. We can't just leave. My children are dead, I screamed into the phone. Several people in the parking lot turned to stare. Don't be dramatic, Rebecca. We'll help you next week. The funeral can wait a few days, can't it? The funeral can wait. As if my 7-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter were appointments that could be rescheduled. As if Daniel's body wasn't lying on a metal table, waiting for someone who loved him to say goodbye. Her next words would haunt me forever. Today is your brother's engagement party. We can't disappoint him. 20 minutes later, as I sat in my car trying to breathe, my phone rang. David, why did you have to call during my party? His voice was sharp, accusatory. You've completely ruined the mood. Mom's upset. Dad's annoyed, and my friends are asking questions. David, I said slowly. Daniel is dead. Lily is dead. Marcus is dead, I heard. That's unfortunate, really. But why did you have to ruin my special day with your situation? Couldn't this have waited until tomorrow? Your situation? As if I'd chosen the timing. As if I'd asked that impaired driver to destroy my family on his engagement day. Are you coming to the funeral? I asked, my voice hollow. When is it, Saturday? Oh, I can't. Jennifer and I have spa reservations. They were super expensive. The funeral was held at Grace Community Church. Daniel's colleagues filled one side. His elderly parents, who'd flown in from Portland despite their health issues, sat in the front row with me. The other side, the side where my family should have been, remained empty. I stood alone between 3 caskets. The smallest one, Marcus's, had robots painted on the side because the funeral director's son had heard about his love for them and painted them himself. Lily's had musical notes. Daniel's was simple walnut, the kind he'd always said he wanted. That night, David posted photos on social media from his engagement party. He was laughing, holding champagne, surrounded by friends. The caption read, "Best day ever. So grateful for everyone who made today special. Blessed, engaged, new chapter." 73 likes, 15 comments about how happy he looked, not one mention of his deceased nephew and niece. Why did you have to ruin my special day with your situation? If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, you know this pain runs deeper than words. Take a moment to leave a comment. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family who took you for granted? Your stories help others know they're not alone. And if this resonates with you, please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear that their feelings are valid. Now let me tell you what happened when I finally stopped being the good daughter and started discovering just how much Daniel had prepared for this moment, even though neither of us could have imagined it would come so soon. The funeral costs hit immediately. 3 caskets, 3 burial plots, the service. The funeral director's sympathetic smile couldn't soften the $35,000 bill. I sat in his office staring at the itemized list. The smallest casket was somehow the most expensive. We offer payment plans, he said gently. Payment plans, as if I'd be paying off my children's deaths like a car loan. Our house was mortgaged to the limit. Daniel and I had just renovated the bathroom, thinking we'd have decades of family memories there. My part-time consulting work barely covered utilities. Daniel had been the primary earner, and his income had stopped the moment that truck hit them. His parents offered what they could, but they were on a fixed income. We have some savings, his mother said, pressing a check into my hand. It was for $6,000, probably everything they had. The life insurance company called while I was choosing flowers for Lily's casket. Mrs. Martinez, we need to schedule a meeting regarding your spouse's policy. Can't you just mail the paperwork? This is a substantial policy, Mrs. Martinez. We prefer to handle these matters in person. Substantial. I assumed that meant enough to cover the funeral costs, maybe a few months of mortgage payments. 2 weeks passed. No word from my family except a text from Mom. How are you holding up? I didn't respond. What was there to say? The house felt like a tomb. Lily's piano still sat with sheet music open. Marcus's robots guarded his unmade bed. Daniel's coffee mug waited by the machine, his fingerprints still visible on the handle. The funeral director's message mentioned something about urgent matters regarding payment. I knew I had to face reality, but I couldn't seem to move from Daniel's side of the bed, where his scent still lingered on the pillows. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard phantom sounds. Lily practicing scales. Marcus's feet thundering down the stairs. Daniel's off-key singing in the shower. At 3 a.m., I'd walk to their rooms, hoping against logic to find them there. The neighbors started avoiding me, not cruelly, just awkwardly. They didn't know what to say to the woman whose entire family had been erased in 8 seconds. Mrs. Chen from next door left casseroles on my porch but never knocked. 4 weeks after the funeral, I hadn't heard from my parents. Not one call. David had blocked me on social media after I'd commented on his engagement photos. These were posted the day you chose a party over your nephew and niece's funeral. I existed in a bubble of grief, invisible to the world. The mailbox filled with sympathy cards from Daniel's coworkers, but nothing from my own family. I started wondering if I'd simply cease to exist if I stopped trying. One particularly dark night, I stood on our back deck looking at the stars. Daniel had taught Lily all the constellations. Marcus always looked for the robot stars he insisted were there. I thought about how easy it would be to just stop, to join them wherever they were. The lawyer's message saved me. Richard Park had called 3 times, his voice increasingly urgent. Mrs. Martinez, we really need to discuss your spouse's estate planning. There are time-sensitive matters that require your attention. Estate planning. Daniel had always been meticulous about details. Even in death, he was still trying to take care of me. I called Park back the next morning. Can you come to my office today? He asked. What I have to tell you shouldn't wait any longer. The lawyer's message mentioned something about urgent matters that would change everything. 3 weeks after the funeral, my phone rang at dinner time. I'd been staring at 4 empty chairs, eating cereal from the box. Mom's name appeared on the screen. Hi, sweetie. How are you holding up? The casual tone, as if she'd been checking in regularly, made my chest tight. How do you think I'm holding up? There's no need for that tone. I'm calling to help. Your father and I were thinking. You must have financial things to sort out. Did Daniel leave anything? There it was. The real reason for the call? I'm still working through everything, I said carefully. Well, family helps family, Rebecca. If there's life insurance or anything you should think about sharing. David and Jennifer are trying for a baby, and fertility treatments are expensive. Are you seriously asking me for money right now? Don't be selfish, Rebecca. Your father thinks you should consider what Daniel would have wanted. He was always so generous. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from grief this time, but from rage. Daniel had been generous. He'd lent David $12,000 for his business that was never repaid. He'd covered my parents' vacation for their anniversary. He'd never asked for anything back. The phone rang again. Dad this time. I let it go to voicemail. Rebecca, your mother's upset. You need to apologize, and we need to discuss the financial situation. As your father, I have a right to know what provisions were made. Call me back. As your father. The father who couldn't leave an engagement party for his grandchildren's funeral now wanted to invoke parental privilege over my finances. I turned off my phone. For the first time since the accident, I felt something other than grief. It was tiny, flickering, but unmistakable anger. Clean, clarifying anger. A week later, David showed up at my door without warning. Jennifer was with him, her eyes already scanning the visible parts of my house like an appraiser. We were in the neighborhood, David said, pushing past me. He'd never just been in the neighborhood in the 6 years since Daniel and I had moved here. Nice place, Jennifer commented, running her hand along the granite countertop Daniel had installed himself. Must be worth what, $600,000? Why are you here, I asked. David's face shifted to fake concern. We're worried about you, Rebecca. All alone in this big house. It's not healthy. You weren't worried about me 4 weeks ago. That's not fair. We had plans. He walked into the living room, noting the new television, the piano we'd bought for Lily. You know, this is really too much space for one person. What are you suggesting? Jennifer stepped forward. We could take it off your hands. Family discount, of course. Maybe $350,000. Cash deal, quick close. The house was worth at least $600,000, even in a quick sale. They both knew it. You need to leave, I said quietly. Don't be ridiculous, David snapped. We're trying to help. You're being selfish, hoarding all this space alone. Leave, now. They left, but not before David delivered his parting shot. Mom and Dad are right about you. You've always been ungrateful. I would never treat family this way. As their car pulled away, I noticed Jennifer taking photos of the house with her phone. They were already planning their next move. David's parting words revealed their true plan. They weren't done with me yet. That evening, my father called. His voice had the same tone he'd used when I was a child and had disappointed him. Your brother tells me you were rude to him. He tried to buy my house for $250,000 under market value. Family helps family, Rebecca. You need to think about others for once. For once, my voice cracked. I gave up my scholarship for David. I nursed Mom after her surgery. I've been helping others my entire life. No one asked you to do those things. You chose to be a martyr. The word hit like a slap. Martyr. David needs money for IVF, he continued. You have a big house. Life insurance coming. You could help. Dad, I just laid my children to rest. That was a month ago, Rebecca. It's time to move forward. David's trying to create life. You should support that instead of dwelling. Dwelling. My 7-year-old son was dead, and I was dwelling. If you don't start thinking about family, we'll have to reconsider our relationship with you. What relationship? I asked. You didn't come to the funeral. You haven't called. You haven't even met me for coffee. We have our reasons. You've always been difficult, Rebecca. David would never put us in this position. Then go be with David. Are you giving us an ultimatum? No, Dad, I'm done. If you want to cut me off, then do it. There was a long pause. You'll regret this, Rebecca. When you're alone with no family, you'll regret pushing us away. I'm already alone. Then so be it. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, waiting to feel devastated. Instead, I felt free. For the first time in my life, I'd chosen myself. The next morning, attorney Richard Park arrived at my door. He was a tall, distinguished man in his 50s, carrying a leather briefcase that looked expensive. Mrs. Martinez, I apologize for the intrusion, but you haven't returned my calls. I'm sorry. I haven't been checking messages. May I come in? What I have to discuss is extremely important. We sat in Daniel's office. Park pulled out a thick folder, his expression serious but kind. Your spouse was one of the most prepared clients I've ever had. He updated his will every year, and his life insurance policies are substantial. Policies plural? Mrs. Martinez, your spouse held multiple life insurance policies totaling $6 million. The room spun. That's impossible. We lived paycheck to paycheck sometimes. He was very specific about keeping this private. He said, and I quote, "My wife sacrifices enough for everyone else. This is for her alone." Park continued, "There are also specific conditions attached to these policies. Your spouse was very particular about certain circumstances." What kind of circumstances? I'll need to review everything with you in detail, but there are provisions regarding family members, charitable giving, and some very specific instructions about distribution. Daniel planned all this? Your spouse came to me 9 years ago, right after your daughter was born. He said something I'll never forget. My wife's family doesn't value her, but I want to make sure she's protected if anything happens to me. My eyes filled with tears. Even in death, Daniel was still protecting me. There's more, Park said, pulling out another document. But I think you should read this letter from your spouse first. He wrote it 3 years ago with instructions to give it to you if, well... Your spouse was very specific about certain conditions, Mrs. Martinez. A week later, an email arrived from National Life Insurance. The CEO, Margaret Anderson, requested a personal meeting. This is highly unusual, her email read, but given the circumstances and the size of the policy, I'd like to handle this personally. I searched her online. Margaret Anderson was a Fortune 100 most powerful women in business. Why would she want to meet with me personally? At her office, Margaret greeted me warmly. She was younger than I expected, maybe 48, with kind eyes behind designer glasses. Mrs. Martinez, I knew your spouse professionally. He consulted for us several years ago on a cybersecurity project. I hadn't known that. Daniel often took side consulting work, but rarely discussed the details. He impressed everyone here with his thoroughness and foresight. When he purchased his life insurance policies, he insisted on certain unusual provisions. Attorney Park mentioned conditions. Your spouse anticipated potential complications with your family. He built in safeguards to protect you. She pulled out a document. He also recorded a video statement to accompany the policy. Would you like to see it? My heart stopped. A video? Daniel's face, his voice. I wasn't sure I was ready. I'll give you privacy, Margaret said, setting up a laptop and leaving the room. Daniel appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like Park's office. He was wearing his favorite blue tie, the one Lily had picked out for Father's Day. Rebecca, if you're watching this, it means I'm gone. I'm so sorry, my love, but I need you to know I've prepared everything. Your family can't touch this. It's all for you. Use it to build something beautiful from this pain. Mr. Martinez was one of our most prepared clients, Mrs. Martinez. His foresight was extraordinary. Sometimes the people who should support us most become our greatest source of pain. But what if I told you that my spouse, even in death, had prepared something that would change everything? If you're curious about what happened next, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. And please share in the comments. Have you ever discovered that someone was protecting you in ways you never knew? Your story might help someone realize they're valued more than they know. Let's continue with the day everything shifted and my family learned exactly what they had thrown away. 3 months had passed since the funeral when I ran into David at Trader Joe's. I was buying Lily's favorite cereal. Somehow I still couldn't stop when I heard his voice behind me. Oh my goodness, everyone. This is my sister I was telling you about. He was with 3 friends, all holding wine bottles for what looked like a day drinking session. David's voice carried across the store. The one whose spouse died and left her everything while the rest of us struggle. People turned to stare. A mother pulled her children closer as if tragedy was contagious. It's so sad, David continued, his voice dripping fake sympathy. She's hoarding millions while her own brother can't afford IVF. Can you imagine being that selfish? David, stop, I said quietly. Oh, she speaks. Everyone, Rebecca got $6 million in life insurance. $6 million. And she won't help her own family. The store had gone silent. Everyone was watching. An employee was recording on his phone. My poor parents are heartbroken. They raised her better than this. The parents who skipped the funeral? I asked, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. David's face reddened. That's a lie. Tell them the truth, Rebecca. The truth? The truth is, you posted engagement party photos while I laid my children to rest alone. You're delusional with grief, David announced to the growing crowd. This is why we're considering having her evaluated. The store manager approached with security. Ma'am, I need you both to leave. I'm leaving, I said, abandoning my cart. As I walked past, David grabbed my arm. This isn't over. Mom and Dad know lawyers, too. The store manager approached with security, but the damage was already done. 4 days later, I received a text from Mom. Family meeting, our house, 2 p.m. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I arrived to find 25 relatives packed into my parents' living room. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Even my father's sister from Texas was there. This is an intervention, my Aunt Sharon announced. She was holding what looked like prepared notes. An intervention for what? Your mental state, dear, Mom said. Grief has clearly affected your judgment. A woman I didn't recognize stood up. I'm Dr. Foster, a family counseling specialist. Your family is concerned about your emotional instability and inability to make sound financial decisions. You hired a therapist to ambush me? It's not an ambush, Dad said. It's love. We're trying to help you see reason. David sat in the corner, tissue in hand, performing grief he'd never shown for my children. Rebecca, Dr. Foster said, your family feels you're not processing your loss appropriately. Holding on to resources that could help create new life suggests an unhealthy attachment to the past. You mean David's IVF? My cousin Tyler chimed in. We all think you should put the money in a family trust for everyone's benefit. Including yours, Tyler? He had the decency to look away. This is about money, I said, standing. My children are dead and you're all here for money. Sit down, Rebecca, my father commanded. No. If you leave, we'll have no choice but to pursue legal options, Aunt Sharon said. For your own good. Grief has clearly affected your judgment, dear, Mom said. But I was already walking to the door. That night, David's social media post went viral in our community. Prayers needed. My sister Rebecca, the one who lost her family in that terrible accident, is having a mental breakdown. She's inherited millions but won't help anyone, not even our elderly parents. She's accused us of terrible things and cut off all contact. If you see her, please be kind. Mental illness is so tragic. Pray for Rebecca, mental health awareness, family first. Within hours, it had 600 shares. Comments poured in. So sad when grief breaks someone. Your poor parents. Money changes people. Maybe she needs professional help. My phone exploded with messages from mutual acquaintances offering support while fishing for details. The local grief support group leader called to say I was temporarily suspended pending resolution of concerns. But then something unexpected happened. Daniel's best friend Marcus commented, "This is lies. Rebecca's family skipped the funeral for your engagement party." I was there. I saw the empty seats. Delete this post or I'll share the funeral guest book. David deleted his comment within minutes, but screenshots were already circulating. Daniel's former colleague added, "I delivered food to Rebecca while you were posting party pics. Stop this." Then Daniel's mother, sweet 72-year-old Eleanor, posted her own response. "David Martinez, you are a liar. I flew from Portland with 2 hip replacements to bury my son and grandchildren. You were not there. Your parents were not there." Rebecca stood alone. "I have photos?" The tide began to turn, but David had one more card to play. He posted a final update. "Some people's true colors show when money enters the picture. I'm done trying to help someone who doesn't want it. Boundaries, toxic family. Some people's true colors show when money enters the picture." He was right about that. The meeting with Margaret Anderson changed everything. She sat across from me in her corner office, $6 million in insurance documentation spread between us. "This is real," I kept asking, "very real. Your spouse purchased these policies incrementally over 9 years, paying monthly to avoid detection. He never wanted your family to know. The first policy was for $2.5 million purchased when Lily was born. The second for another $2.5 million when Marcus arrived. The third for $1 million was bought 3 years ago after what Daniel's notes called the Thanksgiving incident. He kept detailed records," Margaret explained. "Every interaction with your family that concerned him. He was building a case for why this money needed protection." She played another portion of Daniel's video. "Rebecca, I know you'll want to share this with everyone. It's who you are. But please, my love, don't. Your family has taken enough from you. This money is for you to build something beautiful. Create something that would make the kids proud." Through tears, I made a decision. I want to create a foundation. The Martinez Family Foundation for children who've lost parents to impaired driving. Margaret smiled. "Your spouse predicted you'd say that." He left suggestions. 7 months of quiet building followed. I worked with Attorney Park to establish the foundation using $3.5 million as the initial funding. The remaining $2.5 million stayed in conservative investments for my future. I personally reviewed every application. The first scholarship went to a little girl named Sophie, the same age Lily would have been, who'd lost both parents to an impaired driver. Her grandfather cried when I called with the news. By month 6, we'd helped over 120 families. Funeral costs, therapy, education funds, all the things I'd needed when my world collapsed. I kept it quiet, working under the radar. No social media announcements, no press releases, just quiet, meaningful work that gave me purpose. "Your spouse said you'd know what to do with this, Mrs. Martinez." He was right. The Martinez Family Foundation grew faster than I'd imagined. Attorney Park connected me with other philanthropists who'd lost children. We partnered with organizations establishing grief counseling programs specifically for young siblings of impaired driving victims. "This is remarkable," Park said during one of our meetings. "You've helped more families in 7 months than most foundations do in years." It's what Daniel would have wanted. What Lily and Marcus would have wanted. We funded a music therapy program in Lily's name. She'd loved her piano, and now other grieving children could find solace in music. Marcus's robot library sent books to children who'd lost siblings because stories had always comforted him during tough times. I hired 2 employees, both mothers who'd lost children to impaired drivers. We understood each other without words. Our office became a sanctuary of shared grief transformed into purpose. Local hospitals began referring families to us. Police departments kept our cards to give at accident scenes. One officer told me, "You're saving lives, Mrs. Martinez. These families have hope because of you." The foundation's bank account grew through unexpected donations. Daniel's company contributed $150,000 in his memory. His parents, despite their modest means, sent monthly checks with notes for our grandchildren's legacy. But I kept it all quiet. No fanfare, no recognition. I wasn't ready for my family to know. This was sacred work untainted by their greed. Then a reporter called. "Mrs. Martinez, I'm doing a story on local heroes. Your foundation has helped over 600 families. The community needs to know about this. I prefer to stay anonymous. I understand, but your story could inspire others. Think of the families you could reach." I thought of all the parents standing where I'd stood, alone and broken. Maybe it was time. One interview, I agreed. But focus on the foundation, not me. This foundation will be their legacy, Mr. Park. Their love lives on through every family we help. The morning the article published, I was at the cemetery placing fresh flowers on their graves. My phone stayed silent in my car. I wanted this moment of peace before the world intruded. The headline read, "Local Widow Transforms Tragedy into Hope." The Martinez Family Foundation has helped 600 families heal. The article featured a photo from our recent fundraising gala. I stood surrounded by families we'd helped, all of us wearing pins with Lily and Marcus's pictures. The reporter had done her research, detailing not just the foundation's work, but the story behind it. The impaired driver, the 3 caskets, the woman who stood alone at the funeral and chose to transform her pain into purpose. She'd interviewed families we'd helped. Sophie's grandfather was quoted, "Rebecca Martinez saved us." When everyone else saw just another tragedy, she saw a little girl who needed hope. The final paragraph mentioned the $6 million insurance policy that funded it all, calling me Entrepreneur of Heart, and announcing I'd been named Philanthropist of the Year by the State Charity Commission. By 8 a.m., my phone was exploding. 52 missed calls from Dad, 91 text messages from David. Mom had left 14 voicemails. The first text from David, "OMG, Rebecca, why didn't you tell us?" The second, "We're so proud of you." The third, "Call me immediately." The fourth through 90th, variations of demands, guilt, and sudden affection. Dad's voicemail, "Rebecca, this is your father. We need to discuss the foundation immediately. As your family, we should be on the board. Call me back." Mom's messages grew increasingly frantic. "Sweetie, the neighbors are all talking about the article. Why didn't you tell us? We could have helped. We're your parents." Then came the social media posts. David shared the article with a lengthy caption about his amazing sister and how our family always supports each other. Local widow transforms tragedy into hope for hundreds, and her family just found out. Within hours, my parents were at my door. I watched through the security camera as they rang the bell repeatedly. "Rebecca, we know you're home," Dad shouted. "Open this door." Mom was crying. Performance tears I'd seen before. "Please, sweetie. We're so proud of you. We always knew you'd do something wonderful." I didn't answer. David arrived 25 minutes later with Jennifer. They'd brought flowers. Grocery store carnations with the price tag still on. "Rebecca," David called out, "this is ridiculous. We're family. The foundation needs us." My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, came out. "She's not home. And after what you all did, I'd stay away if I were you." "What we did?" David's voice went shrill. "We're her family. Family doesn't skip funerals for engagement parties," Mrs. Chen shot back. She'd been there. She'd seen everything. They camped out for 4 hours. Dad called the police, claiming I was having a mental health crisis. Officer Thompson arrived, the same officer who delivered the news about the accident. "Mr. Martinez, your daughter is under no obligation to open her door. Please leave the property. We're worried about her mental state," Mom insisted. I spoke with Mrs. Martinez yesterday about foundation security. She seemed perfectly sound. "Now you need to leave or I'll charge you with trespassing." They left, but not before David shouted loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear. "We always knew you'd do great things, sweetie. We're here when you're ready to share your success with family." The next morning, a formal letter arrived from their lawyer. They were requesting a family meeting to discuss their rightful involvement in the foundation. "We always knew you'd do great things, sweetie," after they'd called me selfish for not sharing. Attorney Park's office had never felt more like a sanctuary. The conference room was full. My parents, David and Jennifer, their lawyer Park, and me. "Thank you all for coming," Park began. Mr. Martinez anticipated this gathering. "What do you mean anticipated?" Dad demanded. Park pulled out a sealed envelope. Mr. Martinez left specific instructions to be opened if certain conditions were met. "The publication of the article and your presence here fulfill those conditions." He opened the envelope and began reading Daniel's letter. "To the Martinez family, if you're hearing this, it means you've discovered Rebecca's inheritance and are attempting to claim a portion. Let me be clear. You have no legal or moral right to any of it." Mom gasped. David's face went red. "I documented every instance of your treatment of my wife. The engagement parties you prioritized over her achievements. The money you borrowed and never repaid. The emotional manipulation disguised as family obligation." Park pulled out a folder. "Mr. Martinez hired a private investigator to document your behavior. We have everything." "This is ridiculous," David shouted. Park continued reading. "If you abandoned Rebecca during the funeral, which I suspect you did, You forfeited any claim to sympathy or support. The Foundation's bylaws specifically exclude anyone who failed to attend the funeral of Lily, Marcus, and myself. How could he know? Dad started. There's more, Park interrupted. He pressed play on a laptop. The funeral appeared on screen. The camera panned across the empty family section, zooming in on the 3 small nameplates. Reserved for Patrick Martinez, reserved for Catherine Martinez, reserved for David Martinez. The timestamp showed the exact time. The empty seats spoke louder than any accusation. Thank you all for coming. Mr. Martinez anticipated this gathering. Daniel's face appeared on the screen. My breath caught. He was wearing the shirt Lily had picked for his birthday, sitting in what looked like Park's office. Hello? Patrick, Catherine, and David. If you're watching this, you've proven exactly who I always knew you were. David tried to speak, but Park raised his hand for silence. I've watched you diminish Rebecca for 17 years. I've documented every slight, every manipulation, every time you made her feel worthless. She never saw it. She loved you too much, but I saw everything. Daniel held up documents. These are receipts. The $12,000 you borrowed for David's business and never repaid. The $6,000 for Patrick's investment venture that failed. The vacation we funded for your anniversary. Total $42,000 over 9 years. Dad's face had gone pale. But here's what matters. I had our entire funeral filmed professionally, multiple angles. If you weren't there, and I'm betting you weren't, it's all documented, time-stamped, indisputable. The video switched to funeral footage. The priest's voice echoed. We gather to remember Daniel, Lily, and Marcus Martinez. The camera captured every empty seat, every absent family member. Rebecca, Daniel's voice continued. If your family is hearing this, it means they've come for the money. Don't give them a penny. They had their chance to be family when you needed them most. Then came the decisive blow. To the Martinez family, every major charity in the state has been notified of your behavior. The documentation has been shared with the Foundation Board. Any attempt to claim connection to the Martinez Family Foundation will result in immediate public release of this video. David was crying now, real tears for once. But that wasn't the only surprise, Park said, pulling out another document. The Trader Joe's video went viral within days. Someone had edited it with David's engagement party photos, creating a split screen of him celebrating while the funeral timestamp ran below. The caption read, "This man partied while his sister buried 2 children. Now he wants the inheritance money. David's consulting firm fired him within a week." The official statement cited values misalignment, but everyone knew the truth. His clients had seen the video. Jennifer's business partners pulled out of their joint venture. We can't be associated with this, one told her publicly on professional networking sites. Her reputation in the community was destroyed. Dad's position on the community board ended abruptly. The chairman called him personally. Patrick, the members have lost faith in your moral leadership. The same organization where he'd preached about family values for 25 years. Mom's book club excluded her from the annual gala. The invitation was rescinded with a terse note. Given recent revelations, your presence would be inappropriate. Her social standing, carefully cultivated over decades, crumbled overnight. Their neighbors stopped speaking to them. The country club revoked their membership. Even their extended family distanced themselves. We had no idea, my aunt posted on social media. If we'd known they skipped the funeral, we never would have participated in that intervention. The local news picked up the story. Family greed exposed. How one woman's tragedy revealed her family's true nature. They interviewed Mrs. Chen, Marcus, and 3 families our foundation had helped. But the most damaging blow came from David's own friend who'd been at Trader Joe's. She posted, "I was there." David was laughing about his sister's grief. It was disgusting. I'm ashamed I ever called him a friend. Consequences don't always come quickly, but they always come. I refused every interview request. When reporters called, I simply said, the foundation's work speaks for itself. No comments about my family, no public statements about the drama, just dignified silence. The foundation continued growing. We expanded to 4 more states, helping thousands of families. Every dollar was accounted for, every family vetted, every story honored. At Christmas, I sent my parents and David cards. Simple, elegant, with no money enclosed, just a printed note. Wishing you peace this holiday season. A donation has been made to the Martinez Family Foundation in your name. The donation receipts showed $150 each, enough to be legitimate, not enough to be generous. It was listed publicly in our annual report under community supporters, their names among hundreds of others given no special recognition. Mom tried to call 42 times on Christmas Day. I didn't answer. 4 months later, I learned through Mrs. Chen that David was expecting a child. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of happiness for the life growing. Children were innocent of their parents' choices. I set up an anonymous college fund for the baby. $60,000 to be accessible only for education, only after age 18. The paperwork went through Park's office with strict instructions for anonymity until the child's 18th birthday. Why? Park asked. After everything they did. Because Lily and Marcus would want their cousin to have a chance. Because Daniel always said the best response is grace. Because I refused to let their cruelty change who I am. The Foundation's annual gala was attended by the governor, 4 senators, and hundreds of families we'd helped. My parents and David watched from outside, unable to afford tickets, unwelcome even if they could. The best response is living well and helping others do the same. 1 year after the accident, I stood at their graves with an armful of accomplishments. The Foundation's annual report showing 1,200 families helped. Photos from the children whose lives we changed. Letters from parents who'd found hope in their darkest moments. We did it, Daniel, I whispered to his headstone. Your plan worked perfectly. I told Lily about the music program, how a little boy named Ethan had played his first concert using the piano we'd donated. I told Marcus about the library, how his robot books had helped a girl named Emma smile for the first time after losing her brother. Your daddy was so smart, I said, arranging fresh flowers. He knew exactly what would happen. He protected us even after he was gone. The cemetery was peaceful, just me and them, the way it had been at the funeral. But now the solitude felt different, chosen rather than forced. I'd bought a smaller house 3 streets from the cemetery. Every morning I walked here with coffee, telling them about the Foundation's work. The old house sold for $650,000. Every penny went to the Foundation. My support group for grieving parents met weekly in our Foundation building. We'd created a community of understanding, of shared pain transformed into collective strength. These strangers had become my family in ways blood never could. Your Uncle David had his baby, I told them. A little girl named Isabella. She'll have a college fund waiting for her, though your grandparents will never know it's from us. A letter had arrived from David that morning, forwarded through Park's office. 7 pages of apologies and justifications. I'd read it once, then filed it away. Some bridges once burned should stay that way, but their light can still guide others home. David's letter was water-stained. The ink smudged in places from what looked like tears. Rebecca, I know I have no right to write this. I was horrible, unforgivable. I see that now. Isabella looks like Lily sometimes, and it breaks my heart that she'll never know her cousins. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I finally understand what we took from you. Not the money. The moments. The support. The love you deserved when your world ended. I'm sorry. I'm so desperately sorry. I read it twice, then wrote my response on Foundation letterhead. David, I received your letter. Thank you for your honesty. I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine. Carrying anger is too heavy when you're already carrying grief. However, forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Some wounds cut too deep to heal with words. You chose an engagement party over my children's funeral. That choice defined our relationship permanently. I wish you well with Isabella. She's innocent in all of this. Love her the way you couldn't love Lily and Marcus. Be present for her in ways you weren't for them. This is the last communication between us. Please respect this boundary. Rebecca. I included a photo of Lily and Marcus from their last Christmas, their faces bright with joy. On the back, I wrote, "For Isabella, so she knows they existed." Park mailed it that afternoon. No return communication will be accepted, he assured me. That evening, I updated the Foundation's board with our new policy. No position shall be offered to individuals who failed to support founding families during their time of loss. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Some bridges once burned should stay that way. 3 years have passed since the accident. The Martinez Family Foundation has helped over 2,500 families. We've expanded nationally with chapters in 15 states. The children we've helped have started calling themselves Martinez heroes. Lily would have loved that. I've learned that family isn't about blood. It's about showing up. My real family now includes Marcus and his wife, who never missed a grief counseling session with me, Mrs. Chen, who still brings casseroles but now stays to eat them with me, Daniel's parents, who video call every Sunday to hear about the Foundation's work. The private investigator Daniel hired sent me one final report. My parents sold their house and moved to a small apartment. David and Jennifer separated after the financial pressure broke them. He's raising Isabella with shared custody, working 2 jobs. The college fund I set up continues to grow, waiting for a little girl who will someday have chances her father denied himself through cruelty. Some people are lessons, not blessings. My parents taught me that love shouldn't come with conditions. David taught me that shared DNA doesn't guarantee loyalty. Their abandonment taught me that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. But Daniel, Lily, and Marcus, they taught me that real love transcends death. That preparation is an act of love. That legacy isn't about money. It's about impact. Every morning I visit their graves. Every evening I read applications from families needing help. In between I live. Not just survive, live. Because that's what they would want. What boundaries have you set with toxic family? Your story might help someone else find their strength. Share it below. Remember, you deserve to be valued, respected, and prioritized, especially by those who claim to love you. Thank you for joining me on this difficult but necessary journey. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more stories about resilience and setting healthy boundaries. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to choose peace over toxic relationships, even with family. Comment below with your own experiences of setting boundaries. Your courage might inspire someone else to reclaim their life. Remember, you deserve to be valued, respected, and prioritized. Blood doesn't obligate you to accept disrespect. Until next time, take care of yourselves and honor your worth.